So in this video, I would like to explain now how to use the API builder to mock the order API I have just created as an API design. And for that, I would like to use API builder. I have created already an API builder application, and I have started that application. And now we are going to make this API builder a mock for that API. Within the development console, the first thing I'm going to do to streamline the process here just for having a mock and for that demo is to reduce the need for providing any API key security or whatever. So I'm going to change that one as none. Of course, there is an option to configure that API to provide the necessary API key, which you can see here how that works in the diagnostic API. So the next thing is to mock up that order management API specification I created previously using Stoplight. And in API Builder, I have the option to say add a new API, which I will do. And then we take that API specification file. And for each of the endpoints, I'm saying, please, yes, create a flow and mock that endpoint. And therefore, API Builder has created now for each endpoint such a flow, which will basically take, if given the example from the API specification, and returns it as a mock. So that means with that, basically my very super static, simple mock is ready. And of course, using the flow capabilities, you can make that mock more reactive, reacting on parameters and so on. But here I would like to have it very, very static. So one important information is that as I have imported now the API specification into my API Builder project, it has basically created a copy of that file in that endpoints folder over here. So that means this is more or less the same file than this one. The only difference is that this file now contains a link to the flow that should handle the endpoint. I strongly recommend to use now that API specification file and remove the previous one. Next time, just change that API specification directly with your API design tool. Of course, I have to tell now my API to use that API config folder, which is not in the config folder anymore. It is within the order application folder. And here we have then the endpoints folder. So the next thing is to create a Docker image. And for that API Builder application, and API Builder by default provides you with a Docker file, and I'm going to use that Docker file to create the image. So, and for that, I want to have the image to be created as part of the pipeline. And this is actually the workflow for the order management API, which is only replicating that API itself into the API manager. And I will add some additional steps over here to create the image and to tell Kubernetes to deploy that image as an application on Kubernetes. And again, I will use the diagnostic API as a template. And here at the top, we have first the steps to create the Docker image itself. And as I'm running everything on GitHub Docker registry, I need to authenticate with that. I'm using the GitHub commit ID to create a dynamic image tag to make sure that Kubernetes is constantly downloading the latest version. And then we are creating the image itself using some variables, which I will configure in a minute as well. So let me take that over into that one and only job. So that means I do not plan to have multiple jobs. I have just one. So then we take over the environment variables here also from the template and add it at the top and say that the application ID is order app, which is basically that subfolder within the order management API itself. This is the working directory. So, and now we have to tell Kubernetes to deploy that application. And for that, we need a deployment descriptor. And I'm going to use, again, from the diagnostic API, I'm using that API deployment. Perhaps I should have named that file app deployment or something differently. but I stick with that name now and copy that in here. And I'm just changing the service name and say the service name should be order app. And let me just change it at all places. Very likely there are more efficient ways to do that. So this is the image that should, let's say, become the container, and this will be replaced dynamically by the pipeline uh, based on the image just created with the dynamic tag ID. And for that, I have to make sure that happens. And now we are in the other job, deploy API builder, and this is where the image tag is changed. Additionally, I need to talk to my Kubernetes cluster at AWS. That's why I have to authenticate against AWS. And then we tell Kubernetes to create that deployment or apply that deployment, and then we verify the deployment. So let me take over that additional steps into my descriptor or into my workflow file. So now with that, we have the Kubernetes application, the API Builder mock service running in Kubernetes, but we have to tell our API to use that. At the moment, it is using the host definition from the given API specification, which is something like localhost and will never work. So again, I take that from here, API configuration. There is already a backend base path declared, which will basically reconfigure the API before and after has been imported into the API manager. But the application is, or the service is order app. This is now the name of my Kubernetes service on that service port. And the endpoint here is different. It just needs to be /API, which is related to the resource paths and how the API is designed. So that should be everything I need to do. And now let me create a mock for order management. This is not the first time I try that. That's why I'm going to delete the deployment I have created before. So, and let me just get the pods to see how the pods are created. So now let's have a look for the pipeline. And this is my job, API deployment, and there is a mistake. There is an invalid tag name. Yeah, okay, I made a mistake. I forgot something. Let me just quickly fix that. This is the order management, and as I'm running on my local fork, I need to say use that one here. Okay, so, and in order to execute the workflow, I have to make sure that I have a change inside that folder. The workflow is configured. That's not the one. For the order management, just have a small change. So, and now fixed the name of the repository, the repo. So, okay. So I believe sometimes, of course, at the beginning, it might take a little bit longer to set up that continuous integration pipeline. But once it is in place, you have a repeatable process. In the next video, you will see how you can then make use of tests for your API. And of course, these tests require to have a complete continuous integration pipeline. And whenever your API together with your application is deployed, then the API is tested at the front, or the exposed API, including front-end security and everything, which is quite good to expose a very stable API to your consumers, assuming that your test coverage is, let's say, is okay, is good. So the API builder image has been created. We are deploying to Kubernetes right now. So that's why the order application is going to be created. It's now running. And that means we are ready with that. And now we instruct the API to be reconfigured on the API management platform. It's realizing that API is already existing and it's reconfiguring it. So now let's give it a try. Going into the API catalog, reload that, go into the order API, try it out, and say 1.2. And now we see how the mock returns the information as defined. That was all I wanted to show as part of this demo. Thank you.